Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. We have the mystical, the magical, the thing on Mount Move on the early episodes of the early Pokemon anime. If you were that old enough or young enough to watch something and you witnessed it, this thing needs a Moonstone Evolve. It's called Clefable, and it's probably killed you a lot, just like it has with me with 2 shields. Because Clefable is a beast. It's one of the best Charmers in the game, and it's been around for a very long time. And to this day, for the Love Cup, it is actually eligible. So it's a pure Fairy type. And I don't need to do much description for Clefable, because you've either died to it or you've been like me where you died to it a lot. Well, yeah, you've died to it a lot. So the thing about Clefable is that it has a high stamina. It's pretty balanced actually, but it has high stamina. It's also a pure Fairy type. So the thing is with pure Fairy types are weak to Poison and Steel, which aren't very popular in the Love Cup. And you resist a lot of other things. You resist the fighters, you also resist Dark Bug and Dragon typings. So Dragon, you actually resist all those Dragon Breaths, which is why Dragon Breath Pokemon aren't very useful for the Love Cup. But the reason why it's so powerful is because it does have Charm, of course. Charm is what makes it a beast. It also has a variety of movesets such as Meteor Mash, Dazzling Gleam, and Moonblast and Psychic. So it has 2 debuff moves. You could debuff defense or you could debuff attack. And you also have a Steel type attack. So it's very interesting. And like I said, it's actually the Charm that supports Moonblast, so you have the chance to debuff, making it a really annoying and powerful Mon if you use it, especially if it has 2 shield. Alright, here we have the PPoke.com rankings. As you see, Clefable, Meteor Mash and Psychic is the preferred moveset. Psychic gives you the... In my opinion, you could probably run Moonblast if you wanted to. Psychic does give you that coverage to where Charizard doesn't give you a hard time, because you could actually hit Charizard with Psychic. As you see here, you pretty much delete a lot of the meta. Clefable is the #1 attacker just because, as you see here, it is statistically the #1 attacker, able to take out a lot of things. Also, with Psychic, you are able to take out poison types like Shadow Vileplume, so that does give you a way out. As you see in the lead, Clefable is strongest in the lead, deleting a lot of things. It deletes a lot of the fires, it takes out Electrode. The 2 shield strat is incredibly powerful with Charmers. As a closer, probably not the best position to put Clefable in. Clefable, like every other Charmer, needs shields. However, with its Psychic and Mirror Mash, like I mentioned, with Psychic, you do have a way out against poison types. With switches, I wouldn't do Clefable as a switch. Clefable does rank as a #1 switch. However, I would throw it into a positive matchup. But at the same time, Clefable with 2 shields is still very, very powerful. So if you do happen to be in a bad spot, you can just throw a Clefable with 2 shields. Hopefully you can Charm down and expend both your shields. So there's a lot of plays you could do with Charmers, particularly Clefable. And again, like I mentioned, it is the #1 attacker in the game, overtaking Wigglytuff because of the amount of damage you could do over time. Alright, the favorite part of my video, the PPoke.com rankings. Again, if you would like to donate to PPoke, as I always say, please consider doing so. As you see, I have Clefable with Meteor Mash and Psychic. This is the recommended moveset, and I also have Moonblast Psychic. So the reason I have Moonblast Psychic is because, yes, you get stabbed with Moonblast, and you can debuff. However, generally, Meteor Mash is better just because it has more coverage, basically, and it does more damage. But yeah, you get stabbed with, like, Moonblast, so... I just put both of here, either one with that, but I definitely recommend go with me. I definitely, like, we'll see which one's better. But you definitely want Psychic to cover those, you want Psychic to cover the poison types, because if you can land a Psychic, you can KO. So here's the 2 zeros. We hit go. I have the Love Cup meta to the right. As you see here, most of the time you're going to be using, what you call it, Charm with 2 shields. But as you see, there is an interesting matchup. So in the mirror where there's Meteor Mash, as you see here, Moonblast allows you to basically take the match. Well, it really depends actually. As you see here, with me, you basically charm them down if they don't. Yeah, this is kind of an iffy matchup, because if they don't, yes, they'll take your shield and you can farm down, but like if your opponent decides not to throw anything, basically this is like, yeah, you're just gonna charm each other down. So this is only assuming if they fire Meteor Mash. So if you do get the mirror and they fire Meteor Mash, yes, you're gonna give up a shield, but you could take switch. However, I wouldn't recommend going down shield advantage because with other Charmers being available, sometimes shield is more important than switch. Unless you have a counter to Charmers in your back row. Most of the time, you're going to be doing Charm anyways. As you see here, you do beat Lickitung in the 2-shield with Charm. So you should be able to Charm down. As you see here, you could Charm it down in the 2-shield. So as long as you're in the 2 shields, you could take out Lickitung. So this, I don't know why it says you beat it, but you beat Lickitung in a 2-shield. Now, you're going to lose against Wigglytuff. This is the unfortunate thing. Unfortunately, against Wigglytuff, you do lose if they don't fire. So if you fire, you lose. If you fire nothing... Watch what happens. So if you fire nothing, or if you just decide to Charm, here's what happens. It's a simultaneous knockout, which is kind of ironic. As you see here, it's a little IV dependent, so your top IVs are 0, 13, 15. So it's a very, very close matchup. Assuming whoever fires what in the Charm scenario is going to kill each other. Generally, it's kind of better for you to figure, like I mentioned, it's really up to you, but I wouldn't use your, like, shield is sometimes more important than switch. And in a meta where Charm is so viable, I don't know if you want to give up switch. It's really up to you. Again, assess the situation, whether you want to give up switch or not. If you're running double counter to Charm in the back anyways, you can give up and take switch if you want to. Just keep that in mind. And that's a 2-shield. The Charm on Charm situation is just really, really iffy, but as again, 2-shield strat, 2-shield Charm is still really, really powerful. Now, the 1-shield things get interesting. Again, with the Clefable matchup in the mirror, if they fire, it just depends who they fire. In the 1-shield, basically things are the same. You're gonna lose against Alola and Charizard. As you see, Alola is able to just hit you straight Psychic. As you see here, they just go straight Psychic and they take you out because it actually gets to its move before you do, because Waterfall does more, even though Charm does more damage, Waterfall gets more energy, and Alola is a thick fish. So it can survive these Charms. As you see here, you do lose against Charizard just because Charizard does resist your Charm. However, with Charizard, this is an iffy matchup. So with Charizard, if you shield the Blast Burn instead of the Dragon Claw, Clefable can win. So the thing is, you do resist Dragon Claw. So if your opponent can't Blast Burn you, they lose. So keep that in mind. If your opponent cannot get to a Blast Burn, you do win the Charizard matchups. So just keep that in mind. You're able to Charm down majority of the meta. However, you cannot Charm down Shadow. Unfortunately, Shadow Razor Leaf is just able to destroy you. So, yeah. Shadow Vileplume is the worst nightmare to both Charmers, to both of the primary Charmers in Love Cup. And pretty much, again, with the Charm situation, it's basically whether or not you want to give up Switch or not, or whether you use Shield or not. In the Zeros, as you see here, if you use the Zeros, now the thing is, with Moonblast, you could take out Alola in the Zeros. The reason being is because Moonblast, you do get stabbed, as you see here, and with you literally, this is very iffy because you only live with 1 HP. So, to guarantee the defensive bulk point, you need a good IV Clefable. So be very careful in this, be very careful in this situation. As you see, the minimum attack to guarantee your Charm is 5 attack. However, because you want, it really is up to you, depending on IVs. As you see here, your Charm does 15 damage. If we were to set up the IVs in a different way, there's 5, 14. As you see here, 0, 13, 15. So let's just shift it. So we're going to shift it to top IVs, which is 0, 13, 15. Hit battle. And as you see here, Clefable is able to win a lot more comfortably. So you don't have to, if you have a good IV one, sometimes it's better because as you see, you get a lot of a comfortable matchup in the Zeros. You'll actually live with 8 HP. But even then, if you have chip damage and they can get to a Psychic, you will lose, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. The Zeros is the worst spot for any Charmer to be. You will take out Medicham and Scrafty. And you could, the funny thing is you take out Wigglytuff. So the Mirror Match version takes out Wigglytuff the closer because Mirror Match does super effective damage. So in a certain scenario, in this scenario, Meteor Mash is better, as you see here. But you don't want Clefable need shields to be effective, unfortunately, in this meta, because Charmers need shields to live. As you see here, if you close out with it, if they're not damaged already, you can't Charm down, you will lose. However, if you look at some of these matchups, for example, like the matchup with Electrode and Clustle, these are very close matchups, as you see here. If you have chip damage on the Electrode, you can take out the Electrode, as you see here. So the Electrode only lives with 6 HP. So if it has chip damage and it's energy dry, you can take out the Electrode. Just keep that in mind. So there are ways out. With Shield Advantage, as you see here, it's basically, you're able to take down a lot of things. You take down Charizard a lot more comfortably because you're able to Psychic down. So this is where Clefable beats kind of Wigglytuff in a sense, because you have a much more comfortable matchup against Charizard, as you see here. So because you resist these Dragon Claws, you do very well against Charizard. So you beat both Charizard. You also beat Wigglytuff. So in the 1-0 scenario, you'll beat Wigglytuff because you can Meteor Mash it down. So it's the Charmer that beats the other Charmer in certain scenarios. So that's the funny part about it. You still lose against Shadow Victory Bell, however. With Lickitung, unfortunately, because you win. You only win if you have Shield Advantage, or if you're in the 1-0s, as you see here. So you still beat Lickitung as long as you have Shield Advantage, or you're in the 1-0s. So as long as you have Shield Advantage, basically, you can beat Lickitung. Just because those Body Slams hurt, and you don't resist those licks. In the 2-0s, it's basically like the 2-2s. You beat everything, but Shadow Vileplume. So basically, same thing as as you see the 2 shields. Basically, it's the same thing. The only difference is with Clefable, with Clefable, is that you're gonna lose. Well, it's a simultaneous knockout. It's just with the 2-0s, you could hit Clefable with a move. So if you have Shield Advantage, you're gonna hit your opposing Clefable with a move and then take it out. As you see, you win in the 1-0s or the 2-0s pretty comfortably. If it has a shield, so if you go to 2-1s. Things do change. In the 2-1s, you get back to scenario with whether you want to give up the charm or not, or whether they fire a move or not. Otherwise, you're gonna simultaneously knock each other out. As you see here, the two shield. As long as you have 2 shield, it's very similar to the other scenarios. Unless it's the 2-0s, then because they have no shields, you can just nuke everything else. So 2 shield scenarios are essentially the same thing, unless it's the Charm Mirror, or you're facing a Shadow Vileplume because Shadow Vileplume walls you. Alright, so Clefable for the Love Cup, 9 out of 10. You know why? Because if you do the 2 shield, here's what happens. If you do the 2 shield, you only lose 8 matchups. And the funny thing is, technically it's 7, because if you look at the matchup with Wigglytuff, here's what happens. So here's Wigglytuff, right? If you fire a charge move, you come out with shield advantage, and they can farm you down. As you see here. However, you will get to your move. As you see, you get to Meteor Mash before they get to Ice Beam. So you have choice. You can either, 1, fire it, and choose to get charmed down, and they're gonna fire a move at you anyways. Or, if you don't do anything, you're gonna simultaneously knock each other out, depending on IVs. As you see here, bam. Now, there is a break/bulk point, as you see with charm and defense. Even if you go at like full, as you see, 0, 13, 15, this is the number 1. So if you do have a rank 1, here's what happens. Clefable can win. So this is very IV dependent. If both of you have a good IV, this is very IV dependent. So as you see the mirror. Depending on your IVs, you will win or you will lose. As you see here. You will win or you will lose. If this thing has a little more attack than it should be, as you see here, 0, 12, 0, 13. So as you see here, then you can win. So it's very IV dependent in the mirror. So technically, it's just anything goes inside this mirror match. Other than that, Clefable is very powerful. As you see here, Vileplume does give you a hard time, along with Scolipede and Magmotor. Scizor and Wormadam aren't that bad. The thing is, as you see here with Wormadam, you actually have a stronger matchup with Wormadam. As you see here. Bink, 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 bink. You only live with 2 HP. So, the Wormadam matchup isn't that bad. So, that's the thing. What sucks about Clefable is that you have it needs shields to be effective. As you see, as you start losing shields, your effectiveness goes down a lot. However, Clefable in the 2 shield is really strong. Now, Clefable is technically better than Wigglytuff in a sense, just because you resist fighters. Technically. However, both Charmers are viable. The only thing that Clefable has over Wigglytuff is, like I mentioned, is that resistance against fighters. If you do happen to find a fighter, Clefable does resist the fighting damage. So, you're in a better position. Especially if they do use Power Punch and they start trying to rev up. Unless you haven't deleted them yet. Which is, you should technically delete them because you're Clefable. The thing that sucks about Clefable is, yes, you need shields. You do have a way out against Shadow Victory Bell, though. So the thing is, with Wigglytuff and with Clefable, if you have a little bit of energy, but this has to be in the 0s. If you have shields, it doesn't happen. If If you have a little bit of energy, here's what happens. You actually have an out versus Shadow Vileplume. All you have to do is Mirror Mash it. It's technically better than... It's a little better. It's better than Wigglytuff just because it takes one less charm for you to get to this move. As you see here. With this move, you could, as you see, you can get to a Meteor Mash as long as you have a little bit of energy, you can take it out. So there is a way out of the Shadow Victory Bell matchup, or the not Shadow Victory Bell. There is a way out of the Shadow Vileplume match as long as you have a little bit of energy. So if you are starting with at least even just like one charm ahead, here's what happens. You can win. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Like just one charm ahead allows you to get the energy. So you just have to hit it with Meteor Mash. With that one less charm needed, if you can get a Meteor Mash and land it on Vileplume, it does do heavy damage, so you can take it out. So just keep that in mind. And along with that, like it won't, yeah, it's just Shadow Vileplume so oppressive, but you have that way out. So again, the only reason it's a little better than Wigglytuff is because you do resist fighters. However, generally both of you, if you see a fighter, you're gonna delete it anyway. So Clefable is very powerful, like I mentioned. The two shield Charmer strat is very, very powerful in this meta. And either Charmer works. Clefable is overall the better Charmer, also the best attacker in the game, statistically. Or not in the game, for the Love Cup. Still very powerful, so if you're trying to decide which one, you can even run both. However, generally, Clefable will give you more attack than Wigglytuff will. Really just up to you. You want attack, or you want bulk? It's up to you. Either one works, or you can put them in the same team. Which is why Love Cup kind of sucks, because you could put two Charmers in one team and they'll dominate pretty hard, and they're pretty safe. Anyways, if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. I'll be doing more Love Cup content here in the future to get you prepared. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I'll see you in the next video.